same equipment. I'm just here now.
Yeah, right. Okay, I think. How live are we? Closer to your mic. Or I might be able to turn that up here and then turn the gate down. Do a little bit of adjusting. Wait, is that mic 2? Wait, can you say something into it?
Something into it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, where's your gate?
It's in front of my house.
Oh. Thanks.
You're welcome. I hope that helps.
Immensely. Just gonna turn the gain down on these mics here, just so they're not so. Is mic 3 me? Is that me? Okay, that's me. It's me being quiet. It's me down.
What do you mean?
Who's in the chat? Is anybody here? It said there were 5 people here waiting. Viewers and nobody's saying shit yet. Chat, talk to me. Who's here?
Here.
I gotta have messages to read so I can test YouTube. Hello, Haley. Alright. Welcome to another 360 stream. We've been playing around with a few more toys here. There we go. Language sounds so good through like an orange amp.
Oh yeah.
It's just got,
thinking that
it's
got that
chunky. Voices are pretty quiet. We can get closer.
I was trying to talk to you. I don't know what I gotta offer you. I know we both speak the same damn language, but your whole crew's got some rules to rules. You got some men take the rumors with whatever. No, we ain't saying eye to eye. We'll try to fight the stomachs till the better. If you can't even get shit right, said if you can't get over around it, sometimes you gotta budge right through. Words don't mean the same when I'm talking to you. I don't know what you lived or what you've been through. I don't know what you read or what you say. But you don't even really mean what you say when you say what you really mean. They're just ways in your head you've been fed to conform to. A screenplay you've been sent to perform to. And nowadays it's a shame nothing's same. Just complaints all the same till they bore you. And if you can't get over or around it, sometimes you gotta budge right through. Words don't mean the same when I'm talking to you. So if you can't get over or around it, sometimes you gotta budge right through.
Yeah, language.
Chords.
Horts. We're gonna be saying a lot of those today on this year's stream.
I've never said one of those in my life.
Really?
What do I look like?
Certainly not a word sayer.
Someone let me do my love you.
Oh my god. So, a couple of interesting things. I mentioned this last week, but I didn't do it as part of the Harmonic Series like demonstration. There's just like a fun thing that with that old ass synth over here. Can I? Oh, I don't know. Oh wait. Oh, I gotta be strategic about this.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Give me this.
Ho 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 ho.
Microphone. Oh, it's not plugged in. Is it? Whoa.
Space sounds. Like this.
Oh man, where did this mic end up? Okay, wait, it's this cable and then where is it? This isn't quite technical difficulties. No, that's not it. Wait, this one here. Okay. good? Yes.
We're good. Woo!
Okay. You have no idea how. Toward that area, if you turn your camera that way, you can see all of the cable spaghetti that's on the table. Believe me, it continues like threefold under the table. Not really under the table, just more in that section.
It takes a lot of work to get the cable table stable.
Yeah. Yeah. So this funky beat, this funky sound here. One of the ways that synthesis is usually done, like for synthesizers, for synth music, is called. Wait, not comments. I want chat. Where the hell's my chat? Where'd they go? I hate this. Hang on. So one of the things about like synthesis is there's a couple different ways you can do synthesis. You can like have subtractive synthesis, which is like you take a wave and then you cut away parts of the wave to shape it. But another way is you can take waves and then add them onto each other. In kind of the same way that like, cause like with a guitar, like you pluck a string and then there's all those upper higher overtones, right? So like if instruments all have their own set of like overtones and different like loudness with the different material, theoretically you should be able to take just pure waves and then stack them in such a way that would like recreate that sound, right?
Right.
So that's theoretically, there's a lot of variables to consider, but you can basically do that. Whether it sounds real or not. And one of the ways that you do this is by taking harmonic nodes and stacking like the harmonic ratio onto the original wave. And if you do that on even this old keyboard, which has like a demo of like a digital synthesizer, you can actually hear the harmonic intervals pop out digitally. So we can show it physically, but here's what the Harmonic Series sounds like to a computer. So we have, let's play a C. I don't know if that's audible. Maybe up here. Okay. So we can add to this wave an octave, which is the ×2. We can add a perfect fifth, which is the ×3.
Dominant.
Yeah. The dominant interval, the threvens, and then this is up to 4, and then do you hear that major third? It's me playing one note. So that's how the Harmonic Series, like how they tend to use it in digital synthesis, is you can actually take multiple of these waves and then stack them onto an original signal to create something like. You know. That's loud. But yeah, that's the principle of this. Just one more time. Just real quick. Root. Octave. Third. Octave. Fifth. So. I love that. I think that's so cool. And that's just stacking. I don't know if those are sine waves. That's some kind of wave. You're stacking waves. And that, I don't know. I just wanted to explain that on stream and just have footage of that, because like that's the coolest thing about this old junk thing we found is like it kind of just, it has a demonstration of this is how nature counts to 5, like in it. I love that.
That's pretty neat to like have on hand.
Yeah. It's 2 knobs in this whole thing, so I mean like not super convenient, but it's
I don't have those 2 knobs on anything.
It's a cool, yeah, that's true. There should be an app that lets you just kind of like scroll harmonics over a tone. Like you just pick a fundamental and you just like, you know, turn the dial up.
There might be.
There might be. If there isn't, do it. That'd be really useful. Not just for musicians. Let's see if I can pass this back around. Excuse me? Okay, thank you. Sorry. No, you're good. You've done no wrong by sitting.
Yeah, no, but I moved at the last second, so now all this stuff is tangled. That's alright though.
All right. So. A little bit, we'll be getting into our second, harmonics lecture. Probably gonna jam a track or two out before getting into that, though.
Yeet.
Just to solve the rest of the issues we have here. I love it. I love having a tune. Finally.
It's such a hefty.
Yeah, it's so small too. It's just crisp.
Yeah. It feels like biting into a slightly underripe apple, but like that perfect when it's still a little sour and real crisp.
It's like a kumquat to me. You ever had a kumquat?
Yeah. I dig that.
They're like the crab apples of oranges. Subscribe. Leave a comment if you know what a kumquat is.
I did that once.
Wait, what?
What?
Chords indeed.
We play chords in this building.
Hell yeah.
We're
No single interval notes here. Chords are nothing.
In this building, we play 2 or more notes at a time.
Yeah, technically something isn't a chord unless it's more than 2.
Right.
Aren't kumquats kind of like orange? Wait. Yeah, kumquats are like a kind of orange. They're like tiny. They're like cherry tomato sized. They're great. They're really sour.
Yeah.
They're like not like warhead sour, but like you have to like sour things.
Yeah.
It's like after you eat like 3 or 4 of them, it's basically like eating a slice of lemon, but they're good.
Yeah, they're a little more firm
They're snacky.
than like oranges or
yeah, and you can just eat the peel because it's really thin.
Yeah.
I actually don't know the last time I've seen kumquats in stores.
Right.
It's been a long time. You hear this guitar okay?
Good.
Yeah, I got a Strat.
Oh, would you like your strap back?
No, I'm good.
Alright.
I have a chair.
What?
You just do that.
What?
to have a capo also.
As well.
As well. It's Pac-Man now. I said I was gonna get a pick before we started, and I didn't do that.
What?
So prepare, keep running back and forth.
no chords, no sounds, no tones of any kind here at the Harmonicast.
Yeah, no. I don't do that shit. It's barbaric.
This? Absolutely not.
No.
No.
Nothing at any kind of regular frequency.
What? 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 It's a regular frequency.
I was thinking there were these those like buckets that there were these. There's like a leak in part of the theater, and we had to put out a bunch of like buckets and like stuff to catch it. And as we were in there doing that, I was just kind of lost in this hypnotic, like everything was dripping at like its own like steady pace.
Yeah, yeah.
But they were all completely different, and like not like nothing anywhere near like being a coherent polyrhythm. It's just like a dozen of these, just like, but it's like one of those things where like in rain. With rain, you hear like this cacophony, like it's just like a pattern of stuff.
Right.
You hear like a faucet dripping, and it's like one regular. You hear like a shower dripping, it's maybe like one or two like regular like, drips. But hearing just like enough that you can tell that there's a finite amount, but just not being able to hear any rhythm in it is like the weirdest like in between state. I don't know. Also, welcome, Cosmo Comic. I really gotta figure out how to turn the font up on this. I don't know Wanna play your song?
Sure. Check. All right.
Yeah.
Hard concrete living in the jungle. chords are done. I just need a place to rest my head. I just need a place to rest my head.
Chords.
We do play chords and stuff, yeah. There was feedback on the phone, but I don't know if it came through any of the mics. It started playing the stream on my phone all of a sudden. Oh well. That was fun.
Some chords and stuff.
Entertaining
my body chemistry. My remedies. I get through my day by day with the remedies. I get through my day by day with the remedies.
Hi! No, I couldn't do it.
Woo! I can't.
Hi!
Me either.
Close.
No, not a chance for me.
Yeah. I hadn't stretched enough for that.
I could do.
Oh my God.
I can do a bark, maybe that high,
Bar.
but I'm definitely not singing any note. I can't even like howl there.
Well, I tried. I'm so upset with myself that like I remember the day we were doing the video, when we were like shooting the video, every single fucking take I hit that note at the end.
Yep.
Like just while I was doing it, and like it always, there's something to like when you know you have to do something, like as opposed to like I don't know, like the sense of urgency just kind of gives your body more ability to do things.
Right.
I don't get it. I'm not sitting here. If I was like fucking dancing, I'd be like out of breath every fucking take. I don't know. Things are weird like that. I have no idea how like Brandon Urie does like backflips on stage, like mid song. I don't. And then he'll like do that, and then he'll just like fling his hair back and be like, ah! Like what the? How are you doing that?
Right. Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, Panic at the Disco is definitely one of the best live shows I've ever seen. Like, for sure. Like the flying piano bit. Oh.
I've seen clips of that, but that must be crazy to see.
Oh, yeah. Bananas.
I've heard of that shit.
I haven't heard anything ever.
Yeah. That's home. Sometimes I play chords and I don't know what key I'm in. I don't know what that is, but it's
That's floating.
yeah.
That's a keyboard.
That's right. These are notes.
What?
Damn.
None of that.
Okay, so that's a major. That's a. It's just a dominant chord. It's just yeah. I didn't even realize that. That's why it's cool to know music theory, because you can play something and then you could be like, wow, what's that?
And then you can figure out
Then you
what
can
it is.
figure out what it is, and you're like, oh, okay, that's
Like, that's the
that's
fun.
just what that sounds like if I voice it that way. For some reason, just love sus2 chords.
They're beautiful. They're beautiful. That's why the one true God chord is G sus.
Absolutely. Or alternatively, I kind of like G sus4 better. I love doing chord progressions where you can jump between like just susses and chords, but never like resolve to like the third of it, and then like move somewhere else before you do. I love that. I love that chordal and quintal harmony. It's great. It's great.
stuff. Speaking of sounds and stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
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 Indeed.
What? What?
That is a sound. I'm pretty sure.
Oh. But yeah, so we were talking last week about we got through the first 3 octaves of the Harmonic Series. And just to kind of recap, we were talking about how you can take a fundamental frequency. Everything is a frequency. Everything has a frequency. You can take frequency. And
Yeah,
in our
like from if
example
you woke up and then clapped every day, like that would be a frequency.
of once a day.
Yeah.
And if you clapped 110 times a second, that would be a frequency of this. It would sound like this. It would sound like a buzzing sound
Yeah,
like this.
basically.
And here's 220, 330, 440. And so
Yeah.
that's how we build the harmonic series. You take an interval and you stack it on top of itself. 110, 220, 330, 440.
Yep, in whole number integers,
Yes.
which you use one like a unit as, you know, the simplest unit in math, and then you just add more of it. And this is how, you know, like frequency times number.
Yes.
That's basically it. You can choose anything for the frequency, but the
Then you're going to multiply
yeah,
it.
the ratio is important. The
Yeah.
times 2, the times 3, the times 4, times 5. Those are always the same in relation to that initial clapping 110 times a second.
Yes.
Or if you clapped 111 times a second, all of those ratios would still sound the same relative to that amount of clapping, basically.
Yes.
So yeah. So within frequency, there's things that sound the same and there's things that sound different, and this kind of like similarity versus contrast is the second like main backbone of music. It is the difference in register, being able to tell the difference between two things, not necessarily why they're different, but the fact that one is different from the other,
Yes.
and going between the two of them feels a certain way. And so what you discover is that the easiest interval to use with this is the what you get from multiplying 3.
Volume of music is drowning. Excuse me. Volume of the music is drowning the voices.
Oh, let me see. Volume of the music is drowning. Okay, it does look like we're a little quiet there. Let me adjust that here. So yeah, let me fix that here. It's gonna come up on one side. That's a good thing. That's a good thing to know. I can edit this out. I have the multi-track thing rolling, so it's recording. So
Cool.
I can just edit our voices louder in post there, but for the stream, definitely want to be audible. Mix 3. Go for it. All right, how are we now? We should be hitting the limit. We should be pretty loud. And that should also be pretty loud, but I can turn that down. All right. Are we good? These levels make sense. I think we're good. The green looks good because when you play guitar and when I play chords, it stays like green, and when I talk, it's at the top of the yellow part. So I'm pretty sure we are above the music now.
All right, cool. Ooh. Let me just back that up. A little tad there. Let me. All right, cool. Should be good.
Yeah.
All right.
We really got to get like shock mounts for the mics because those things have their own spring reverb, just because of the fact that like there is a spring on it. Like
Yeah.
if you are loud enough at one of these mics, it just reverberates and just adds spring reverb to the sound, and you can't control that, which is it's pretty cool, but
Right.
if we wanted to be a little more. Also, you're like right in the way of that
that other. You could probably just switch mics. I mean, like that mic
Oh,
arm.
yeah.
Careful. I hope I have limiters on that. I'm pretty sure I do on that.
All right. Okay. Check. Do a check.
You could get a little closer. You could pull a little closer.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah.
How about that? One of these. There.
Yeah, you're fighting the gate, so you're gonna wanna get like right up to it when you speak into it.
Like a D's. Woo. Like
Yeah.
a D's.
Yeah.
Oh ho.
All right. Are we good? Level's good. We're gonna get back into it. So, rising above the level of the music is one of the things that is relevant to the topic of discussion today. Where we left off before, like with the harmonic series itself, was with the numbers 4 to 8. So just to recap again, a power of 2, like if you double something, it's an octave. So powers of 2 are sort of like our gateways, our crossing points between where things start to get more complex. Because that's where the pattern wraps, that's where the notes, start over again. And so let's consider this the next octave of harmonic complexity. We started with 4 to 8. That has 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 in between it, and it sounds like this. Sounds like that. So, that just from nature counting to 7 gives you this interesting chord. But we talked before about the gaps between things and the opposites that tones have. And just like we were able to find the subdominant from the dominant, and like just how the root and the octave are opposite of each other, and the dominant and the subdominant are opposite each other, you can take those same gaps between stuff, and like I explained a little bit at the end of the last episode, how you can get like more interesting intervals out of just the gaps between, like, say, these ones and these ones and these ones and like you can get different tones from using the gaps you already have. So if we got the subdominant from flipping that on its head, if we flip this barbershop chord on its head, then we should be able to fill in the gaps and have a wider section of notes than just this. And so let's measure from the octave instead of from the root and look at these notes as opposites. So the first note we have is the major third. Or, well, should we get into numbers yet? The major tone. Start with... We're going to be getting into numbers soon. I'm trying not to get ahead of myself here. So we start with the 4 and 5 with the 4th and 5th harmonics. This gap is our major chord tone. And if we were to instead take this gap between this 5th harmonic and the 8th harmonic instead, using this as the root, and bring this downward, we would have this interval. This is a minor chord tone. So, we found this one. If we move up to the dominant, we already know what the opposite of that is. It's that. So now we have... No, wait, we have... Okay, now we have... Right?
Yeah.
So, if we take that last, what was the ugly note, and then we take this, and then bring this all the way down, we get this tone. And that allows us to fill in the gap between the root and its major chord tone. And the series of notes that you end up with is that's interesting. It's very, it's not really the scale that we use in Western music, but it is, instead of just a bunch of points that relate to each other in an interesting way, it is now a smooth spectrum that flows around. The circle, the dominant and subdominant circles where you stack, like where you stack lay all of that, it's kind of, it is a cycle, yeah, it does wrap around like a spectrum, but the harmonic series already has a point where it wraps around. It's just, instead of expanding until it wraps, you need to repeat. You need to keep going through octaves to
find new levels of complexity.
Yeah, you gotta move the mic closer.
Sorry. You need to keep going up through octaves to find these new levels of complexity. And as you move from one to the next, you find that the amount of new information available at each one is twice what it was in the last.
Yeah. And that was another thing that we mentioned last time, where as there was only like one note between the octaves in the second octave, the 2, 3, 4, that means that like in the gaps between those, like between the octaves and this note, the next octave is going to have
Two new notes.
2 new notes. Yeah, and so we found by, using just this amount of information, we can sort of reverse engineer this flowing pattern out of the information that we have gained. So that's what we came up with using information we've gathered so far from the Harmonic Series.
Yes.
And we've only counted up to 8 so far in the Harmonic Series. This is all that we have gained simply from nature, counting to 8. What if we just, instead of following our own intuition, follow the Harmonic Series? And what if we just count higher than 8? That's a monumental task. No one's ever done that before, as far as I'm aware.
Counted past 8?
Yeah.
I've never done it.
That's crazy.
What is past 8?
Well, we're gonna find out.
Whoa.
It might be scary.
All right.
But we have a good roadmap so far. So let's see. Let's bring all of this up into an octave that we can work with. So this is actually, you can hear a little bit of this toward the top end of a guitar's harmonics if you have it gained out, like if you have it like the gain up. But it's very, yeah, it's very see if you can hit it like past the 3rd fret and going like from the 3rd fret going toward the nut, you can sort of hear some of the higher
Harmonics?
Yeah. Yeah, you can hear them to a certain point. Yeah, so once you get past that barbershop chord, this is where it gets harder and harder to hear the actual, like, physical stuff. So this is actually, in a sense, harder for nature to get to, whether or not, we have numbers or not. But if we bring all of this up... If we bring all of this up to 9. From 8 to 9 is this interval.
That's terrifying. We just got past 8.
Yeah. It's crazy. You might just want to pull that toward you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that where you had it was that distance.
Yeah.
It's good at addressing
Cool.
distance. Okay. All right. So from 8 to 9, we have this whole tone here. This is called a whole tone. We've made our way all the way to a whole tone in the harmonic series.
Whoa.
We already sort of had one from 7 to 8, but, starting from root, now the root of the harmonic series has a tone. So we already know what comes after this one. Because 10, 8, 9, 10 is twice 5. And we got to 5 last episode. And then, after 10 is a new prime number, 11. 11, relative to root, is a character that we met before, briefly, last episode. It is an closest to the most even division of an octave, dead in the center, between the subdominant, which is considered perfect. Wait, I'm sorry, I can't play notes. Between the subdominant, which is considered perfect, and the dominant, which is also considered perfect, is 11, the tritone. If you know the concept of the uncanny valley, things can look like cute. The more features that you add to something to symbolize like a living actual thing, the cuter and more acceptable it is. And there's like, a way to there's an optimal peak of that, of what you consider cute and unreal. But then there's a point where things get like super realistic and super like idealistic, perfectionist, like not like impressionistic, but really like fine detail, precise kind of realism. And then between those two states, it's unsettling. This is not just analogous to the uncanny valley. The uncanny valley is an analogous reaction to this.
Also,
This-
interestingly, this is the interval used in a lot of car horns.
Yep, because it's so dissonant. It's what our brains recognize as the most dissonant, like while still recognizing it as an interval, basically.
Yeah.
And it's the one that tells you get out of the way, get out of the way.
You hear it a lot in metal songs.
Oh yeah. Metallica famously. The riff that blew up Metallica into the mainstream is famously just a tritone and a fifth, just an octave tritone and a fifth in a row. That's Enter Sandman.
Yeah. I don't know. I actually don't know that.
Oh. Wait. I gotta play Enter Sandman.
Oh wait. What about copyright? We'll be back.
I will play it once. That. One. Root, octave, tritone, 4. I was wrong. It was the subdominant, not the dominant. Okay. Enough of that. On acoustic guitar, it's harder for the
Right.
harder for them to pick up. But basically, this note sounds really menacing. And so far we have... Whoa! Thank you. Thank you so much for saving that. Tritones. So far we have 8, 9, 10, 11. So, we already know what 12 is, because 12 is 6 doubled, which is 3 doubled, and 3 is sort of 3 is the dominant. 3 owns the rest of this. So let's not forget. Let's give 12 the respected demands. Then, after 12, we have 13, which is another prime number, which means this should be another new tone to the root. I like to think of this interval as a pest. Wait. No, you're doing major 6. Yeah, this is an interesting chord tone. So that's our 13. All right, and we know what 14 is because we had 7 from the last one. Right? So we know what this note is. But then we did have the 7 and 8. There should be one note in between that now. And that's our 15. So we have 8. We have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 back to our octave. There's 8 notes in here. And if you notice, did you notice anything about 2 of those tones that were picked up? No.
Nope.
Well, what's interesting about this scale from 8 to 16 is it is one note plus one extra note off from the scale that we started before we moved up to this point. So that was the scale that we came up with, and what the Harmonic Series gave us was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So it's different between... Wait. Diabolus in music. Diabolus in musica. Mi contra faes diabolus in musica, one of the cardinal rules in musica ficta. Yes, that's right. The tritone has been called the devil's chord, like once or twice. It's not like it wasn't like traditionally known like that, but there were a couple like people back in medieval times that were just like, don't do this note.
Yeah.
It sounds bad.
Yeah, and that's what it came out to. It was
Yeah.
like, it ended up being like a reminder to people, hey, don't put this in your music. If you come across this while you're writing your music, it'll sound bad.
Yeah. Because back then you were like writing choral music and you were working with big spaces where everything would reverb for like 10 seconds. And the tritone, the 11th harmonic, is the like least consonant interval with any of the other intervals. So it's like if you don't want this to ring out for 10 seconds over whatever the hell your next chord is, don't use it. That was sort of like the gist. But, you know, you call something bad in a certain scenario, and then everyone just kind of says like, oh, it must be evil then.
Right.
So that's sort of how we remember it. But it does sound pretty ugly. It is a pretty ugly interval.
It
But
definitely sounds like
yeah.
like that.
There's definitely a reason that metal picked up on it. But yeah, that tritone plus this this other minor second here, this other half tone, it's called, below the octave. Those are the only changes from the note that we got from the undertone to the overtone series.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is if you reverse the gaps on this from 8 to 16, like the way that we did to fill in the last octave, let's not fill in more notes in between them because most of them are going to be the same. But instead, you get this scale, which is if you didn't follow that, we start at the octave, and I'll do it from the bottom. Then we have this half tone above the root. Then we have our typical whole tone above the root. Then we have, okay, that's the same. Then we don't have that in the harmonic series. And the next note, the 11, is the same in the overtones and undertones, whether you're measuring from the root or the octave, whether you're going up or reversing. Then after that, that's the minor 6, or that's the minor chord tone. That's the one that we got from the 5/8 and then the 13 before.
Right.
So that is the 13th harmonic, and it is the 10th undertone. Okay, so we have that, and then that is our barbershop 7, and then the octave. So the interesting thing, the main difference between these two scales is the overtone scale has it has this extra bit in the ascent, and the undertone scale has this extra at the bottom, because they're mirrors of each other. And another thing is the overtone series has a perfect dominant interval in it at 12, but for the undertone series, its equivalent is a tritone, which is interesting because the undertone, its 4th note, well, technically it's 5th. This subdominant isn't what the overtone has, but the undertones also don't have a dominant function. So what's interesting, and recall this from the last episode, the circle of the dominant, stacking the 3s, and then stacking the 3s backwards, both of those circles would start. Wait, yeah. I'm trying to follow it all the way up. There it is. You have to go through every single note to find something that is close to that subdominant note. And we both know that by the time you stack up that much, you've actually strayed from what we consider to be like equal notes, right? So the dominant function, as it stacks, the dominant and the overtone series that contains it, is always building toward an approximation of the interval that it doesn't have. Think about that. And within the harmonic series, because of the way that the number 3 works, you can never, no matter how much you keep stacking, we could count to 16, we could count up to 32, to 64, to 128. We can keep going up these octaves, and we will never find a number that is a perfect subdominant from root in the harmonic series. It does not exist. And likewise, with the undertones, when you go backwards, you will never find a dominant. So, the contrast that we were talking about last episode and at the beginning of this episode is integral for us to assemble our conception of music. As you can see, we can follow numbers, and as we learn by getting to the 4th octave, the scale here, as we can see from doing this, the harmonic series has its own character. It finds archetypes and it starts to fill them in.
but the way that it does so, like, is good symbolically, but isn't optimal for us. We kind of see that there's a personality that is distinct to the overtone series when you wander too far in that direction, and that there's another character that is distinct to the undertone series when you wander too far in that direction. You can't simply depend on just the math. You have to fudge things. You have to use the different concepts you get from different places in order to assemble music in the way that we recognize it. Or else you're writing church chorals forever. Which is what all before... There's a thing called pre-tonal music. We started with tones, right?
Yeah.
For the longest time, people gathering and singing in big choirs and writing music for that, didn't actually understand you could move the bottom note for thousands of years writing music. They didn't know that. They didn't know that you could have a bunch of people doing this, and then you could go. They did not know that. Totally foreign shit to them. Then someone just figured out you can go. And then church choirs just started doing that forever. And it was literally like the biggest breakthrough in Western music ever. We figured out we could move chords. And what did it, the first cadence that people came up with wasn't necessarily the resolution, like what we think of it now, which is the resolution of the dominant to the root, but rather the root to the subdominant. That's what opened the gateway. We've been sitting here droning forever, and then somebody decided to go, and that's called Plagal Cadence. The vast majority of music history has also just not been notated. That's true. Yeah, I'm talking about like
Notated musical history.
yeah, notated like history as is written down. But I feel like what I'm saying is roughly accurate. When you start writing stuff down, you can have more moving parts because you don't have to memorize things. Yeah, totally. And that's another thing. That's another aspect of this. Once you have the pattern, once you have a language that you can use to like, once you have a language and kind of a schema in your head that you can work off of, which the Harmonic Series did give us from 8 to 16. It gave us its own spectrum. Once you have those slots, then you can put different stuff in those slots.
Yeah.
So, one way that we do this, just keeping the gaps between stuff the same, but shifting where things start, is our modern Western system of modes. So we talked about like the spectrum of notes and how like a color spectrum or a color wheel things wrap around. This is much more intuitive than the Threvens in that it just kind of all of these have their own color. I like to think of this as like rocky or like watery, like just dense, right? I like to think of this as like bright. I think of this as like safe, like secure. Then I think of this as like big and like powerful. This, I mentioned before, I see this as kind of like pesky. And then this, we consider it the ugly interval. It's got some charm, but ultimately it exists to end up other places. And so, like, sort of like colors and how colors have that different read to us, once you start measuring things from root, you have these different colors in the color wheel. And so you can say this is red and orange and yellow and green and blue and, you can, and indigo, violet. You can keep going and you'll end up back at red, like a color wheel. But, we start our color wheel at red,
What if you started your color wheel at orange? What does that sound like? Scales are a continuous pattern, and as long as you are rapping to the same note, the octave on the other side, you can start in the same pattern of gaps and find these different personalities in them. So when you start at yellow, it's a very fiery scale. We call that Phrygian. We call the last one Dorian, by the way. Then you can go up this same pattern if you start at, say, yellow, or no, we start at yellow. If you start at green, it's Lydian. It's very happy. Then Mixolydian, and then Aeolian, which we also call minor, and Locrian. This is just using the same notes, but choosing where you start, but each one of them has their own flavor. And just like every note interval has its own characteristic, exploring the scale from that as a reference point will give you an extension of that interval's character.
Yeah.
And it all depends on which note you start your Ionian scale, your ion. All starts with ions, just like matter. But there's actual interesting character to some of these, like Dorian being the stable interval it is. It's a palindrome.
Right. It's the arrangement of steps from one note to the next, same forward as backwards.
Yeah. Also, make sure you're close to the mic. Like if your mic in your headphones sounds quieter than mine, you're gonna have to you have to lean in.
Check.
Yeah. But could you repeat that, because it was cutting out of the gate?
Oh, gotcha. See, I can hear it just fine.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, there's a little bit of volume difference, but not anything that Anyway.
Yeah, to me, the gate cuts you out sometimes.
Okay. Yeah. So so the arrangement of steps from one note to the next in the Dorian mode is the same forwards as backwards, and so it kind of lends a sort of stability to it. The way you play it as a palindrome.
It's not as depressing as minor, but it's very serious, very stoic. Love that. Phrygian, its fiery character comes from that flat second, and that has like the tritone, has a lot of uses, and it's something we get from the undertone scale too. Lydian has a tritone instead of the fourth, like the overtone scale does, but it makes it sound really happy, because it makes it sound floaty. Mixolydian is the name of this next one, and also if the names are weird, we didn't come up with them. I'm not coming up with them. I don't know. This is blue scale to me. This is blue. Last one was green. I don't care. Mixolydian is what they call it. It's
That's
like
about the size of it. Yeah, and you just kind of
yeah,
like you're serious about knowing the names. You just
it's
kinda
like
have to
Lydian,
memorize.
but more mixo. That's how you remember.
Right?
It's actually not that much like Lydian. So, this is the favorite scale of the dominant 7 chord. So, it's basically all of the notes between this. So, if you're playing like if you have like a... You can do that. Aeolian, which that's when you take like I think it's eggs and olive oil and I think garlic,
Yeah.
and you make it into a sauce by like whipping it. It's also the purple scale. And it's known colloquially and most traditionally as the natural minor scale. And it's considered that because it's built with the first few notes from the subdominant scale.
That's kind of the most notable thing about it. We use it
Yeah.
all the time for things that we want to sound sad.
Yeah. The reason why this in particular is called Aeolian and why we consider it Ionian's counterpart is interesting in sort of like a self-fulfilling way. It's kind of just a distinction that we make significant, but it kind of provides like the major and minor axis allows for a pretty good split
Yeah.
of like the notes that we have. I'll get into that in a bit because, you know, managing the amount of notes. Humans can only remember 7 things at a given time, so having 7 notes in a scale is a pretty good starting point. And there's like 3 different versions of the Aeolian or of the minor scale, but we call one naturally minor, and we use it as like an axis to measure other things. What's interesting about the Ionian to Aeolian is even though we consider them opposites, they share perfect intervals. The Aeolian and the Ionian both don't have tritones or minor seconds, halftones. They keep prettier intervals and more stabler intervals than the complete opposites of the spectrum,
Right.
which is interesting. So they're not quite opposites. So even though we call them opposites, that's sort of like a simplification. Really, they are 1 and 6 of a 7-note pattern, which is less. It's harder to get to that point to explain, but we're here.
Right. And that's something that's quite common for musical notation purposes. Is you will take a scale and you'll give each note in the scale a number
Yeah.
based on its position.
Yeah.
So
where you start becomes 1.
1.
Yeah. So, like, we have the note names A, which starts on Aeolian, A, B, C, which is the start of Ionian or major, D, E, F, G. I don't know my ABCs. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Then it wraps back to A. Interestingly, A is like, even though it's the first letter of the alphabet, it's not the first letter of the first scale. We usually consider 1 to be C. It's also the middle note in a piano. We call it middle C, this one. So I don't know why that is. I also know that like when Bill Gates took the like software for Microsoft, there was like that IBM operating system thing, and like his roommate had coded it, and when it booted up, it would load the drive and it would name the main root drive A. And Bill Gates took this code and he kept mostly everything the same, but he changed the root drive to C instead of A, and then he sold it to IBM without crediting his roommate. And you know, one version of that software took off, and one of them didn't. And I think it's because of the note they started on. Or it could be because Bill Gates lied. So, anyway, there is one more mode that we didn't really like touch on the character of, and it's Locrian. Yeah, and like Phrygian's thing is it's like minor second, which makes it sound spicy. Locrian also has a minor second, and so it's also a good spicy scale, but we ignore it because, for one, it doesn't have a dominant, so it can't really build chords. You can kind of, sorta, like if you like do 3 7s and stuff, but like you can't really like go home in 7
Sort of
in
impossible to
Locrian.
arrange a resolution.
Yeah. You can, like, I don't know, if something's jamming on a 7 chord or a dominant chord, I guess you could do like a solo in Locrian. You could play some you know, crazy, I don't know, but I feel like if you're trying to be rebellious and go and write something in Locrian, like I'm gonna write a whole song in Locrian, it's gonna be, you know, like a whole like pop song, and it's gonna sound good, and I'm gonna make it, and you won't even know. Don't try. You're gonna waste your time. You're gonna sit around with like a riff for like half an hour. Yeah.
Like that.
And you're gonna be using all these like, you know, ugly like grooves with it, and you're gonna get somewhere, and you can like loop with it, and then you're gonna try to go somewhere else, or like, you know, reach any kind of like resolution with it, or you're gonna show it to somebody else, and they're gonna be like, okay, that's neat, and you're gonna get frustrated with how little you can actually do with the piece of music you've created, and then you're gonna give up. And I've been there quite a few times over the course of my life trying to write music. Every once in a while I think like, what if I relied on Locrian for this next song? And I've had so many songs I've had to scrap. But you know, I bet like if you do find examples of Locrian in the wild, they're always like dubiously Locrian. Like there's not really a good way to keep using it steadily. Like if you like
either have to diverge from it or just be stuck.
Yeah. Leave a comment if you have any actual examples of Locrian. I will probably reply to you and tell you it's not actually Locrian. But, you know, take a shot. So, we talked about kind of a dick move. And I don't know what was a dick move at this point. But, we talked about how if you have this character of a scale, you can sort of put different things in the slots of this 7-note thing. So you can do that with modes, but that's keeping the same like pattern of gaps between stuff, like these either whole tones or half tones, and then adding them up. But you could also focus, like some of the modes were good for chords, you could focus building your scales around optimizing specific chords. In the 5th octave of the Harmonic Series, once you get past 16, there's 16 to 32, which means we had like this scale from 8 to 16 just... So that would mean that there's twice as many notes in 16 to 32, right?
So that means 16 new notes.
That means
16 notes total.
16 notes total. That means 8 new notes. And, like, we don't have room for that in equal temperament. So, at this point...
Like, we use 12 12-tone equal temperament. We're not getting 16 tones in there.
Yeah. We're and there end up being like four of the 7 notes, and it gets pretty crazy. So it's less about the flow, the fluidity of following the harmonic series exactly from this point, and more about recognizing this as the weeds and finding, weeding out the noise basically, and finding the things that you do need. Because there are some intervals that are really interesting. The like perfect harmonics of like stacking, like a 27th harmonic is the 5th of the 5th of the 5th.
Right.
And that's the major 6th. And so like you don't get that interval until like 27. So like there are reasons to go up and look at what has harmonic justifications beyond the initial scale, but after octaves 5 and 6, you have all of the tools you need, and then a bunch of junk that's just kind of redundant.
Right.
So from here, like we put together the elements that we had before from the simplest part of the harmonic series that we started with at the beginning of the episode, we can do the same sort of principle and make this whole thing our tool, our toy, our plaything.
And something I want to mention, just because we have the time, is that is it the 7th octave or the 8th octave? Beyond that, there is no more complexity.
You mean like yeah, beyond the 7th octave. Well, beyond
Any
the 6th
complexity.
octave. Yeah, by the time you get to the 7th octave, any additional complexity you add does not give you any new information.
Right. And so what that means for us is as we start and we go through octaves, and every octave we get twice as many new notes, twice as much new harmonic information per octave. When you get to the 7th octave, you can double the amount of notes in that octave, but you don't double the amount of notes that are new. You don't double the amount of notes that are not an octave of something else.
Yeah.
So you can so then the only new numbers beyond that point are prime
Primes.
multiples of the fundamental you started with.
Yeah.
You don't double in complexity beyond that. We're done with beyond 7 levels of complexity for just about anything that you can quantify. There's no reason to become more complex than that. Any new complexity is not that meaningful.
Yep.
And so for like a real life example of that, you could ask an engineer what pi is, and they'll tell you pi to 3 digits. We make circles all the time.
Yeah.
And pi is an irrational number. But like our top people are only using 5 or 6 digits of pi. We type
Because
in
you get so
3.14,
small.
right? And
Yeah,
then,
you get so small, and the difference is not like it's negligible.
and that's what we're doing here beyond the 6th octave of the harmonic series. There is a bunch of new information, and it can be useful, but it isn't new. It's not. It's not novel.
Yeah.
It
By
isn't.
the time you get to having, what is it? The 7th octave has, I think, 64 notes in it.
Yeah.
You don't need that many. You don't need that many notes. You can, if you want to write a 64-tone microtonal piece of music, go for it. But
Listen to Sevish first.
yeah, listen to Sevish first, because you don't need that many notes. It's actually funner to use like lower prime, like. Actually, do check out Sevish, because using like there's a thing called equal temperament, like microtonal equal temperament, where instead of 12, you use different sets of numbers. So
Right.
you can have 5 notes splitting up an octave easily, or evenly, or 10 notes, or 17 notes. Songs with like 11 and 17 tet can sound cool as hell.
Oh yeah.
There's I think, is it King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard?
Yeah.
Yeah, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard have a song. They have an album called Rattlesnake, which is done with guitars with twice as many frets, which means that they have 24 notes to in their equal temperament.
Right.
twice as many notes to choose from. Double the notes.
Yeah, these frets up must be tiny. You figure
Oh, yeah.
up at the
They probably don't go that high.
probably not, I would imagine, but like, wow.
Hoarding 64 tones in anticipation of interruptions in the supply chain. Yeah. That's the thing about the Harmonic Series and all of this stuff is it is all purely it is the simplest, most root of all theories that are theoryable.
Right.
Because it's numbers. We're talking
and it's
about
just numbers in order. They're not even
it's just
doing
numbers in
anything-
order. Yeah, like
They're not even doing anything fancy. It's 1, 2, 3, 4.
yeah. And so like one of the things about like big numbers, there's primes and then there's multiples of other numbers you've seen before, and by the time you get that high, the gaps between the numbers that you've already gone through can approximate any amount of harmonic complexity that you need to. So,
Right.
like as far as just exploring the numbers, we did it. We're
That's-
done.
Yep.
So from here, it's just let's use what this crazy harmonic math serpent has taught us. I mentioned that there were 3 minor scales. That's because chord motion is something that people care a lot about. I mean, like obviously, but they want to be able to explain why notes outside of a certain scale are used instead of the ones that are traditionally accepted. And one of the things that people, I guess, don't like is that in a minor key, the 5 chord, the 5th, the chord off of the 5th note in this scale, which is the dominant, is minor. And I guess people don't really like resolving like that, and so they came up with a different version of the minor scale. It's the same. If you look at my fingers on video, the only difference is instead of hitting this white key here, I go 1 tone higher, and so I leave a gap wider than any that has been in a scale up to this point. But I do it for the sake of the chord, because now that I have this note, I can have that resolution, which it does sound cooler. Call this the Harmonic Minor Scale, just so we can give ourselves a minor equivalent of the dominant Teutonic resolution, basically. There is also Melodic Minor, which I actually... What is the difference in Melodic Minor to Natural Minor?
It's a flat 2. It's
Yeah.
a flat 2.
Wait, really? That's Melodic Minor?
Ain't it? I might be. No, I might be tripping.
I gotta fact check this.
I'm gonna be wrong. Beyond a certain point, you just collect scales.
Yeah, and then you
And,
stop calling them stuff. You just play them.
Right. And you mix them up as you go along too, because you just once you get to the point where you're borrowing the tonality of one scale for another, the names sort of become irrelevant.
The ascending melodic minor scale. Wait, what? Oh, it's wait, what? Ascending? What the hell?
Melodic minor, natural minor, harmonic minor, all had the last 3 notes.
Are all flat different things in the last 3 notes. Okay. Wait, is melodic minor, is that flat? I'm not even getting a straight answer from. Okay. I just want to know, raised 6th and 7th scale degrees.
Okay.
Okay. Wait. Wait, no, wait. I'm losing it. That's it.
Sure.
It's gonna be like 3 minutes of edit. And the melodic minor scale is called that because it's more melodic. But okay, one interesting scale that justifies a particular chord is the double harmonic major scale, which is also called the Byzantine scale, and it's got a flat 2, it sounds like this. No, wait, am I doing this right? Yeah. This is a major scale with a flat 2, and then a flat 6. And it also has that same gap from harmonic minor. It actually, if you take harmonic minor, which is, and then I think you take the wait, whoa. If you take the 5th mode of harmonic minor. You get the double harmonic major scale.
Which is what I was playing before.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. The double harmonic major scale, because it has this note different and this note different, lets you hit a dominant, like a perfect 5th, on the half tone above. And if you listen to my music, I use this. I use this transition a lot. This is called a tritone substitution, and there's a very interesting reason for that. So we've been talking about like dominant motion back to tonic, and like how chords just like to do that. Let's start with G. So it's all white keys. So this is a dominant chord. And what is interesting about a dominant chord and the tension in a dominant chord is the tritone between its major 3rd and its 7 tone. This is a tritone. And what is interesting about a tritone is that you can switch whether the root or the, tritone. You can switch which of these notes is the root and the tritone because it mirrors.
Half an octave.
It's half an octave. So
the inverse of a tritone is a tritone.
Yeah, so I could just move this up. And this is the same. No, wait, that's a tritone. So this is the same as. But this means that this can be my 3. And this can be my 7, which means that I can add a different note to the bottom of this. And you see, this is also a dominant chord, but it happens to be not the traditional. Whoa. It is a tritone away from the dominant tone of the scale. So we call this tritone substitution, and what it allows us, the reason we call it tritone substitution is It's because we use it. We use this instead of this for one interesting movement in particular, but a lot of other things stemming off of it. But the traditional 2, 5, 1 turns into 2, flat 2, 1. And you might be thinking, wait, but there's this 2 there that isn't the 2 from the scale that you had. And that's where I say, who cares? This is music.
And once you start doing that on a regular basis, you start forgetting what scales are called.
Yeah.
But now you just know how to pick out intervals.
Yeah. Because the fifth is still in the scale, and that is a fifth of a fifth. It's dominant, which means like you'll end up using like the notes that chords need. It's just this scale is what people consider if there's, say, a jazz trio or a jazz, quartet or whatever, and the bassist and the pianist are moving from, and you're trying to like solo, like over that last bit, like. Wait. Like having a scale that I'm not even playing in the right scale, but the idea is I was doing it better with Mixolydian. The idea is that if you have people moving down chords, you can use the scales that like favor these chords to do like solo stuff over them. And this is the interesting thing about how scales and melodies relate to chords. Melodies are usually like what we consider when we think about like songs, right? Like you can hum a tune from a song and you don't really need a beat under you or the chords under you. You just remember the melody. But as you remember the melody, you are in your head thinking of the rhythm that it goes at.
Mm-hmm.
And you're thinking of the, motion of the chords under it.
Beat that it keeps.
Yeah, the beat that it keeps. Make sure you're talking in the microphone.
I'm so sorry. I will. I'm gonna get close.
I mean, that's like, for that kind of microphone, that's where you want to be.
Fair enough.
Like radio. These are radio mics here. See, these ones can pick you up from like pretty far away. That one's like really directional.
Gotcha.
Eventually, we're gonna get all matching mics for these arms here, but
Oh. I'm just waiting to get.
Do you want to help
matching
fund
arms.
that? Yeah, mine are a little lopsided.
Right.
Um.
My one hand only works this way. My other hand only works this way.
Oh man.
It's a good thing I'm a guitarist.
That was actually oh man, I think it was Dave Mustaine had an injury in his fretting wrist, where like there was a nerve that was pinched. Where if he was using his hand like this, it'd be fine, but if he had his hand like this, it would like he couldn't control it because like one of the tendons
no.
or the nerves was messed up. So he had to like relearn how to play guitar, like after he had some kind of like nerve injury like 20 years ago.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. He also had to wear a neck brace on tour from headbanging too hard.
That's metal as fuck.
Yeah, and his doctor told him, like, okay, don't tour if you, like, headbang by habit, because you can't be, like, even if you have a neck brace, you can't be doing that. And he still went on tour, he just didn't headbang. Like,
I mean, that's how you know they're in the life.
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Dave Mustaine is a really talented musician.
Oh yeah.
But I think, yeah. So we've gotten through the weeds. We've figured out what rules serve us what rules we can break as long as we still know, how they work. And we've learned that there are some rules that sort of like take over, like there are some rules that are more dominant than other rules. Like for example, dominance. Like usually if you're playing any physical instrument and you have a note that is tonic, like if you have a single note that is loud enough, there's gonna be a third harmonic above it inevitably. It's just gonna appear there. You're gonna have to deal with it sonically. And so anytime you have any scale, you pretty much have to like assume that like the fifth for any given note is allowed, except in some certain cases. But there's systems for that. There's ways that we do that. There's ways that we break that. There's ways to break things that sound good. There's ways to follow rules that sound bad. And that's just sort of, music is about learning what it is and what it's telling you. If you trust in rhythm and music and chord motion, even if you don't know all of these terms, you can still, like... Sorry,
I'm sorry.
It's fine. I don't know why that threw me off, but... If you know rules, basically if you know rules, you know how to break them. But it's good to at least recognize what the rules are, so you don't just end up, like, rebelliously throwing spaghetti at a wall and insisting people should love your art because it's new. Like, that's the thing. You can go pretty far without knowing barely any theory. Like, in the first episode, you can pretty much start a punk band knowing, like, 3 notes. Yeah.
I don't want to play any more than that. Copyright.
Yeah, that'll algorithmically match to, like, 500 different songs between 1995 and 2005.
Absolutely.
Just what you did.
Yeah.
Every pop punk artist from the late 90s and early 2000s is now suing us.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Shit.
Sorry, we're gonna
we're
gonna wake up to 7 cease and desist orders.
Right.
God. But oh man.
Oh. But yeah, we got a couple. I mean, we're pretty much like in the overflow time.
Yeah,
basically.
we've covered everything.
Nice.
We talked about Dorian's mirror effect, and there's the fact that
all of them here.
Yeah, all of them mirror around Dorian.
Okay.
Which is
so. Yeah. All right. So this is something that I think is kind of interesting. Is we talked earlier about how the steps in Dorian, they're a mirror of themselves.
Yeah. So you have a whole tone, and then a half tone, and then another whole tone, half tone, whole tone. So it's exactly like. It's exactly like all the ratios are mirrored.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes. And so what is interesting about this is is if you think of Dorian as being like a tonal center point, you have the modes on either side of it. Dorian is the second mode. So on either side of it, you have the first mode and the third mode, Ionian and Phrygian. Those are mirror images of each other, where the way that you would arrange your steps from one note to the next in Ionian is the reverse of that in Phrygian and vice versa.
Yeah, so around Dorian, there's the first note and the third note.
Right.
And the gaps between these are backwards. So this starts with a half, whole, half, whole. And major is whole, half, half. Or, well, whole, half, whole, half. Yeah.
Right. So mode 2 mirrors itself. Modes 1 and 3 mirror each other. And in the same way, so do modes 4 and 7 and 5 and 6. So this one pattern that we start with, this major pattern, this Ionian pattern, ends up being a reflection of itself, which contains contains multiple reflections of itself, which is sort of how our entire harmonic series has worked from the
Yeah.
beginning anyway.
This is the interesting thing about octaves of complexity is, even if I'm not fully up to snuff at demonstrating all of these concepts accurately. I don't know modes as well as you do, but I just know white keys, so I'm playing them. But the interesting thing about octaves of complexity is that if you find a concept that works in like one thing's wheelhouse, you can usually zoom out and find like a similar analogous concept
Working at a higher scale. And
Yeah.
that's what we were talking about at the beginning of our last episode.
Yeah.
As above, so below.
Yeah, the rule of as above, so below is very strong in music. A lot of things are iterations of other simpler things that were introduced before in the harmonic series. But yeah, we also said listen to Sevish. That was a note that was on my bullet points here. It's very important. Microtonal music is really cool. Open your mind to tones beyond just equal temperament.
Yep. And Cosmo Comic, you had asked who that was. It's Sevish, Sevish.
Yeah. Yeah. Sevish. You can find all their music on YouTube. And also Bandcamp. Support independent artists. I've also done... There's only one song right now, but there is a longer character theme coming in the second part of Mixed Feelings that I wrote in 10 equal temperament, which is instead of 12 notes, you have 10 notes in between.
Oh, I'd be interested in hearing that. 'Cause you have that kind of neutral third there.
Yeah. You have basically like two like neutral pentatonic scales that are like offset from each other, and it's cool. I
dig that.
could
really-
try to pull it up. I wonder if... Oh no, that might be a hidden track.
Oh.
So I don't know if I can do that too easily. Mixed Feelings soundtrack. Let's see if it's here. I think it's this. Do you hear that?
Yeah.
That's 10 tet.
Ooh.
It's just that the loops. But yeah.
And then you also said, so we have scales. Those scales give us chords. Chords we fit into archetypes. Am I coming through okay?
Yeah. I can,
Okay. Chords we fit into archetypes, and that gives us rules that we can break in ways that give us the possibility to tell a story through music.
yes.
That is exactly the point we were getting at.
Absolutely. Yeah, and so this is there's like dimensionality to this too. Is like you start out with like it kind of works backwards. Like you start out with a broad swath of like possible tones, and then you pick out, like single bits of those that like work together, and then you start arranging them. This is kind of like how language, like, if I've heard dimensionality as like mathematical dimensionality described, as like from language to like a story, and then into like from fiction into like material reality. But where you start is like, there's that shape E8,
Yes.
which is if we go up to like 8 dimensions, we can perfectly stack spheres in 8 dimensions, and we have a whole mathematical shape for that. And that, if you work down dimensional slices, sort of like how you can take like Earth, and you can put like a cross section of it, and you can see like, okay, there's the core, there's the mantle, there's the outer, and there's the crust, like
tapered down.
yeah, and you can see like the cross section of a 3-dimensional object, and you can see a 2-dimensional plane through it. So say you have an 8-dimensional big rustly tumbleweed of a zillion dimensions, and then you cut a 7-dimensional plane out of it. That's like you take all possible noises that could happen, and then you bring it down to just the noises that our Big Bang caused, basically. That's the first thing. You take that first slice, then you figure out, okay, what section of this noise are we working with? Then from there, you take certain kinds of those noises and you systematize them in the sixth dimension. If you take a six-dimensional cut of this shape, you basically end up with a bunch of weird little geometric symbols that are, six-dimensional things in their own right, but basically letters for a dimensional story, like different parameters that feed into reality. If you take a fifth-dimensional slice of this, you take those systematized things, those elements, those shapes, in the bigger cloud of noises and stuff, and you assemble them into, like, series of, these sounds, like gnooshk. Which is,
That was my nickname in high school.
Yeah, is what Bill Wirtz claims probably was the first word of humans, I believe. Gnooshk. Is that part was like, some of these apes, they figured out how to use tools and walk on all fours and make fire and string words together that have meanings, like gnooshk. But, we have a lot more words than gnooshk. We have things like we have ya, which is a pretty simple word.
Ya.
It's been around for a very long time. Every Germanic language has a version of ya.
Yeah. Also have
Hey, that's also really old. Yeah.
Yeah, don't ever let anybody tell you that hay is for horses, because like what they're appealing to is which word is more formal versus between hey and hello. And hello is assumed to be more formal because it's assumed to be old. It's assumed to be older and more proper, but actually, hey is the oldest greeting we have. It means hey.
Yeah. And in fact, hello
Means,
literally means
hey, lo.
Hey, look. Yeah, like hey, look at that.
Yeah. Hey, look who it is.
Yeah.
Hey, lo.
Yeah.
That's casual. That's slang.
Yeah.
Hey, lo. What do you mean, hello? Am I your friend? Don't look at me.
Yeah.
Don't even address me. You say hey to me. Leave my ass alone.
God.
No.
But yeah,
Look.
we have words and we give them interesting meanings and we give them interesting connotations, and that's kind of the thing is like words form not just because we decide to take a group of letters and like put them together, but because like context leads up to a word, like a collection of sounds meaning something.
Right.
A lot of early words are automatopoetic.
I'm not sure how you would.
They're automatopoeias.
Yeah.
Like the Chinese word for cat is miao,
Right.
and
Called, like Mao.
or we have words like drip, and bang, and slam, and whoosh, and stuff like that. And like we, just way back, like a lot of the words that we were coming up with, like there was a word in Proto-Indo-European that meant to glow, to shine, to like burn brighter or get bigger, and it was just bul. And I can totally imagine like that being like a gesture, like bul, bul.
I can see it. Yeah.
And it just meant like anything, like something blooming or something like burning or something exploding, just yeah. But that's how we started with language, and you can start to arrange these things into meaning, into a story, and like we think of like a story as like something with a whole lot of arcs and stuff, but a story, it could be as simple as Johnny eats an apple. This is an event that we can relay with some words. Johnny eats an apple and throws it away. Johnny wakes up, grabs his money, goes to the store, buys an apple, walks back, eats the apple, and throws it away. Like, you can extend on this, but the nucleus of Johnny eats an apple is still, like, that's a story in and of itself.
Yep.
And this is how, like, we have meaning in, like, these linear transmissions using these sounds, using sounds in order to create a story. That is the fifth slice of this tumbleweed. Then you go down further, and you have like the language and the story, like the actual contents of the story. What happens What are the elements that are involved here? What are the emotional states in each element of this story? You know, how does it start? How does it end? And that is sort of like our abstract. That's like the stage, right? That's where you start filling in, you know, what, not just what things mean, what the story is, but the state of the story, the emotional feel of the story. And this is like, this is what I feel like this is where you get to, you know, like the last thing was figuring out our scales and our melody. This is like, you know, the chords below it, and like the elements that make it up. By the time you get down to the third dimension, all of the abstract concepts that you have, you know, of things like shapes, the idea of a chair, the you know, anything. Oh no. Oh no. 1 second.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, I've left you all in the void.
I don't know.
Come on. It's gotta be. There's no way it could run out of battery. It's plugged in.
What?
There we go.
What?
Is it back?
Nope.
Did it flip or anything?
No, you said there you go. Or there it goes.
Well, it turned blue. I'm not seeing.
Gotcha.
Technical difficulties.
Oh,
Oh, we got it. Is that it?
nothing on the screen.
Whoa. Well, this is being strange.
Yes, yes.
Gonna attempt this one more time.
All right. Well, actually, so Cosmo Comic, you were talking about colors work in frequencies as colors work in frequencies as well. And yeah, that's actually something that that I've found fairly interesting. Is if you look at the wavelengths of visible light, we said it runs I don't remember the unit, but it runs like 400 to 800 units of frequency is the approximate range of
I think it's
like visible
It's
light.
like nanometers.
Nanometers,
Yeah.
or it could be like 350 to 700. But the point is that visible light is about half at red what it is at blue in terms of wavelength. So we can see about 1 octave of visible light.
Yeah,
Or
that's
our visible light is about 1 octave of the light that exists.
yeah. It's a really interesting way that that our measurements sort of cap like that. Like numerically, the lower limit of visible light and the upper limit of visible light are pretty much like an exact octave.
Yep.
I think it's 400 to 800.
I believe, you know, you look up what the frequencies of light are, and they're always rough approximations, but it's like 300 to 400 to 700.
Yeah. Well, because color flows like a spectrum, just like tones, just like harmony.
Yes. So then, yeah, chords would be analogous to, you know, complex colors or color palettes. So it's, you know, it's interesting that you bring that up, but also like musicians describe their chords with color or as adding color all the time.
Oh yeah.
And the more interesting a chord is to the ear, the more color we say it has. So
Yeah,
it's interesting how naturally people draw that analogy.
Like notes above the seventh, we usually consider like color
Color.
tones.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about the dominant chord is there's this 13 chord that you can do with all of the notes if you stack them in like traditional by thirds, basically, which is by two like scale steps apart. One thing that they say works better is if you raise this 4 to the tritone. It's called the money note. You can also do it with a major 7.
yeah.
It's real smooth.
Unfiltered cigarette.
Yeah, that's what I like about 11, like the tritone is, it's so like traditionally ugly, but there's ways that you can hide it in places that are just like perfect amount of spice.
Yep, and as long as they've got like consonant intervals with other notes within that chord,
Yeah.
you can make it. You can have that little bit of ugliness, still give it something pretty to sit in.
Yeah. You can go pretty much like between the most ugliest dissonant chord and the most consonant chord, like no issue. Like I could just that works as a resolution.
Yep.
Like maybe not that.
Maybe.
I was watching something interesting about how you can I think it was how like a tritone can resolve it wants to resolve into a major third is usually like what chord function wise.
Okay.
But there's a way that I was watching a video about this earlier. You can like resolve it outward, a quarter tone either way, and end up with a perfect fifth.
That's awesome.
And then you end up with like something that isn't like really like tritone substitution, but is like quarter tone tritone substitution. It's weird.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Just cluster your chords like Eric Whitaker. Oh yeah, I'm gonna find like magic chords.
I'm gonna stick with happy little tritones.
One other little thing about there's some like modes and scales. Typically, we also give them like whether they pull upwards or pull downwards scale wise.
Right.
Like whether they're like the old Greek theory for this is if notes have more closer intervals toward the top, it's an ascending scale. So like major has that half tone at the top, but if something has clustered notes toward the bottom, like Phrygian, it sounds really good for like descending.
Right.
And those what sounds good ascending and what sounds good descending also mirrors around Dorian, because Ionian has that, Phrygian has it in the opposite place. Then the same thing, Lydian has, or no wait, Lydian's here. Yeah. Lydian has that tritone. It has a half step below a fifth, and it wants to pull up to the fifth. And Locrian it has that minor second it wants to pull down. And you know, you can do the same thing with Mixolydian and Aeolian. You know, that
Aeolian.
yeah. And these like in traditional Greek modes, they would actually use more quarter tones, and they would use more like notes that weren't necessarily, because they would divide an octave into like two sets of fourths,
Okay.
and then wrap around the octave, basically.
All right.
And so they would call them tetrachords. And so you would stack 2 tetrachords like across this octave, and some of them had more in like quarter tones, like between notes, and some of them had like wider gaps between steps. And so it was basically how they used to do it was just like adjusting the space between the places, the 2 notes between the 1 and the 4, and then they would adjust the space between the notes of the 5 and the 7.
Right.
So that's interesting. Yeah. I think that's I think as far as material we got to record, that's
about
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how much there is to stream. So let me just throw in this outro. Thank you. If you are listening to the podcast or watching this after the fact, thank you for listening and or watching the Harmonicast, the Harmonic Series, a harmonic podcast about the Harmonic Series.
Think they talk about notes on that thing?
Probably.
Yeah.
We've talked about at least 3.
Yeah.
Pretty sure. I'm gonna have to go back and
We
check.
don't play fucking notes here.
Yeah. But if you want to see the rest, you can go to the full streams playlist. You can see the other streams like this that we have done. There will also be links to the rest of the edited episodes if you're watching the edited version of this. And in the meantime, if you want to catch either of our stuff off of this here podcast, you can find us at
Twitter at @RoverRed.
and I am at Twitter at CaseJackal. You can also check out our EP that we put out last year,
The Green
The Green Blues, if you go to case.dog/music. Check it out. Yeah, without further ado, listeners are going to have a little song jam after this, and we will see you next episode of the Harmonicast.
Bye!
Okay. All right. Multi-track, stop recording. Now it's just us. Jared's out of animations. This is what happens when the podcast is not recording. He has to script all of his muscle movements before every shoot we do. And then if we roll over, this happens.
It's excruciating. You know how much detail goes into coding for your eye to open? Like, how do you even start the day?
What if that's actually what sleep is? You're unknowingly scripting your actions for the next day and you just don't know it.
Oh, no.
You just wake up and just start running a program. You have
Oh,
no free will.
Why is that?
We've gone into the deep end.
Why is that that process so anxiety-inducing? I go to sleep and it's like, boom, instantly, another world being chased by whatever just random video game style enemy. In the woods, all right, lumberjacks. In the back rooms, all right, just faceless corporatites.
Oh my god, I think we're gonna have to cut stream anyway because
Yeah.
of our camera seems to not like going for 2 hours straight.
Yeah,
So it's been fun though.
it has indeed. See you next time.
Yeah.